In the heart of the galaxy, on a bright world called Virelon Prime, the Durellan Empire ruled over hundreds of systems. Tall towers floated in the sky, ships moved like birds above glowing cities, and alien nobles walked with pride. This was where the powerful lived, and among them was Princess Kaelara, daughter of the Emperor and heir to the Empire. Kaelara was known across the stars. She had purple skin that shimmered in the sun, silver eyes that could see through lies, and long, flowing hair like black, silk. She was smart, strong, and proud. But there was one thing everyone knew about her. Every noble male in the galaxy had rejected her. First it was the Arenthi prince. He said she was too cold. Then came the Yurnak warrior lord. He called her too proud. Even the silent, logical Charnan scholar refused, saying she was too emotional. Over the years, many tried and all failed. Some whispered she was cursed. Others believed she was too different, too strong for the quiet roles expected of royal women. Kaelara knew the truth. She had refused to bend. She had refused to pretend, and for that, she was alone. Her father, Emperor Khazarun, was growing tired. He loved his daughter but worried for his legacy. An heir must have a mate. So he called for one final attempt, a grand royal gala, inviting every noble house, every powerful clan, and even the strange newcomers from Earth, the humans. Earth? Kaelara said sharply, sitting across from her father in the royal garden. Those primitives? They are no longer primitives, Khazarun said firmly. The Galactic Council has accepted them. They grow quickly. We must not ignore them. Kaelara crossed her arms. They are barely even spacefaring. Why invite them? Khazarun looked at his daughter for a long moment. Because the rest of the galaxy has failed you. Maybe it is time to look somewhere new. Days passed quickly. The gala hall was decorated with glowing banners, soft music floated through the air, and alien guests from hundreds of worlds arrived in their finest clothes. They brought gifts, stories, and pride. But all eyes eventually turned to one figure. Kaelara stood at the top of the stairs, wearing a sleek silver gown that shimmered with every step. She looked like a goddess from the stars. Yet as she walked, many looked away. Some gave polite bows, others just smiled awkwardly and stepped back. It was always the same. Kaelara sighed quietly and took her seat near the Emperor's throne. Her gaze moved over the crowd. Warriors, scholars, princes, and leaders, all shining, all fake. Then she saw someone different. A man stood alone near the far side of the hall. No glowing robes, no armor, just a simple black suit. His hair was dark and short, his skin pale, his eyes curious. He was speaking to no one, just sipping a drink and watching everything, like he was studying the room. A human. Kaelara frowned. What is a human doing so close to the royal circle? She asked one of her aides. He is part of the Earth delegation, the aide whispered. His name is Elias Quinn, engineer, former soldier, chosen to represent Earth for diplomatic talks. Kaelara raised an eyebrow. An engineer? Not a prince? Interesting choice. As the gala continued, one suitor after another came forward to greet her. A prince from the cold world of Xerax offered her a crystal flower. She nodded politely. A rich trader from the Ryan sector recited a poem. She smiled tightly. A scientist from the Mindorians explained her genetic strengths like she was a lab subject. She listened. She thanked them, but her heart remained untouched. When she looked again, Elias Quinn was still alone, still watching. But now, watching her. She stood. Princess? Her aide asked, surprised. I need air, she said. And she walked straight across the hall toward the human. Elias saw her coming and stood up quickly. He bowed his head, unsure. What was proper here? Princess Kalara, he said, voice calm and deep. An honor. She studied him closely. You are not afraid to speak to me. He smiled gently. Should I be? She tilted her head. Every male in this room either fears me or judges me. But you just watch. Why? I'm curious, he said simply. Everyone talks about you like a mystery. I wanted to see the truth. Kalara blinked. That was new. And what truth do you see, human? She asked. I see someone tired of being treated like a puzzle, Elias replied. For a moment, silence sat between them. Then, Kalara laughed, soft, surprised, real. It was the first true laugh in weeks. They sat at a quiet table away from the noise. Elias asked questions, not about her power or her wealth, but about her thoughts. He asked what books she read, what kind of stars she liked to watch, if she ever just sat in silence and listened to the wind. Kalara, slowly, relaxed. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. You humans are strange, she said softly. Probably, Elias replied. But sometimes strange is good, she smiled. You are not trying to impress me. No, he said. I'm just trying to know you. That night, they spoke for hours. No one interrupted. No one dared. As the gala ended, Kalara stood beside Elias outside the hall under a glowing blue moon. The stars shimmered above, quiet and endless. Why are you really here, Elias Quinn? She asked. I came to see the galaxy, he said. But I didn't expect to meet someone who made it feel smaller. She turned to him, eyes narrowing. Are you flirting? He laughed. No, I'm being honest. Kalara looked away quickly, hiding the sudden warmth in her cheeks. You humans are dangerous, she said. Only the good kind, he replied. That night, back in her chamber, Kalara sat in silence. She removed her heavy crown, letting her hair fall free. Every suitor she had ever met wanted something from her, power, title, glory. But Elias Quinn asked for nothing. He gave attention without expectation, respect without fear, and for the first time, Kalara wondered, maybe the galaxy had been wrong all along. Maybe she wasn't the problem. Maybe they were simply not human. The next morning, the royal palace was quiet, but Princess Kalara could not sleep. Her mind kept returning to one person, Elias Quinn. No prince, warrior, or noble in the galaxy had ever made her feel what he made her feel. Not excitement, not desire, but something deeper, peace. For years, Kalara had been treated like a tool, a prize, a political object. But last night, Elias had spoken to her like she was a real person. He had listened, laughed, shared simple stories, and he didn't try to win her. He just saw her. She stood at her window, looking out at the floating cities of Viewership Prime. Then she made a decision. Elias Quinn was working on a small scanner near the human embassy when the royal guards arrived. Mr. Quinn, one said, politely. The Princess Kalara requests your company, immediately. Elias blinked, surprised. Me? Again? Yes, the guard said. She has cleared your access to the royal gardens. Elias put down his tools, wiped his hands, and followed them through shining halls and glowing lifts until they reached a hidden courtyard filled with blue flowers and whispering trees. Kalara stood in the center, wearing a soft, flowing dress. No armor, no crown, just herself. I didn't think I'd see you again, Elias said. Kalara looked at him and smiled. I did. They sat on a stone bench under a wide crystal tree. Birds with feathered tails floated around them. The air smelled sweet, and for once, there was no pressure, no politics, only silence and curiosity. Tell me about Earth, Kylara said. Elias smiled. It's messy. Messy? Loud cities, crazy weather, too many opinions. But it's home. Kylara tilted her head. And the people? What are they like? Elias thought for a moment. They fight. They love. They dream too big. But they care. Deeply. Even when it hurts. Kylara grew quiet. On my world, emotions are weakness. Feelings are hidden. We are trained to rule with logic, not heart. Elias looked at her. But you still feel them, don't you? She didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, Yes, always. But I've learned to hide them. He reached down and gently touched her hand. You don't need to with me. Her fingers trembled, just for a second. Days passed, and Kylara and Elias met often, in the garden, in the library, sometimes even on the palace roof at night. They talked for hours. She told him about her childhood, about the pressure of being perfect. He told her about growing up on Earth, about losing his parents, about why he left the military. You don't act like the other men I've known, she said once. Because I'm not trying to own you, Elias replied. I'm just here. Kylara liked that. No masks, no games, just truth. One evening, they stood near the royal fountain, watching stars move across the sky. Kylara turned to him. Do you know what they call me behind my back? She asked. Elias nodded. The unwanted princess. She laughed bitterly. Yes, that title follows me everywhere. It shouldn't, he said. You're not unwanted. They just didn't know what they were looking at. She looked at him, surprised. You're strong, Elias said. Smart, fierce. That scares them. But not me. Kylara's voice was quiet. Why not you? Because Earth teaches us something, he said. That the strongest people are. The ones who've been told they're too much and kept going anyway. Kylara looked down. Her hand found his. This time she didn't pull away, but not everyone was happy about their growing closeness. High Counselor Varnex, a cold and cruel Durellan noble, watched them from afar. He had once tried to marry Kylara but failed. Now he felt insulted. Rejected, and he hated that a human, a nobody from a backwater planet, had won the princess's attention. He went to Emperor Kazarun. This is dangerous, Varnex warned. If she continues this path, the Empire will lose honor. You must stop her, Kazarun frowned. She is finally smiling again. I won't take that from her. Then you are weak, Varnex hissed. And so is she. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Leave, before I forget your rank. But Varnex didn't give up. He began whispering to other nobles, planting seeds of doubt, starting rumors. The princess will marry a human. She will shame the Empire. He is using her. Soon, the whispers grew into loud talk. One morning, Kylara was summoned to a council meeting. 12 alien nobles sat in a wide circle. Elias was not invited. We are concerned, said one. Your attachment to this human... Elias, Kylara corrected. Yes, Elias Quinn. It is unfit, unnatural. He does not belong here. Kylara stood tall. He is kind, honest, loyal, more than I can say for many here, the nobles murmured angrily. Another spoke. If you continue this friendship, we may question your right to rule. Kylara clenched her fists. You rejected me for years. Now you dare to judge me for finding someone who sees me for who I am? Varnex stood. He is manipulating you. No, Kylara snapped. He saved me. The Emperor raised his hand. Enough. This meeting is over. As Kylara left, her heart beat fast. She knew what was coming next. They would try to separate them. Later that evening, Elias was called to the palace. He stood before the Emperor, who looked tired and troubled. "Mr. Quinn," Kazarun began, "I do not blame you, but your presence is causing unrest. I must ask you to leave." Elias said nothing at first. Then he nodded slowly. "If that's what keeps her safe, I'll go." Kazarun looked surprised. "You won't fight this?" "I came here to explore," Elias said. "Not to break worlds, but tell her I didn't leave because I stopped caring." The Emperor looked at the human, truly looked at him, and saw something rare. Honor. Kailara rushed to the hangar, but she was too late. Elias's shuttle had already launched, heading back toward the human fleet. She stood in silence, watching the stars. For the first time in years, her heart ached, not because she was alone again, but because she finally knew what love was, and it had just left her world. Back in his ship, Elias sat at the window, watching Virelon Prime grow smaller. He whispered to himself, "You're not broken, Kailara. You were just never seen right." A cold silence filled the royal palace after Elias left. Princess Kailara no longer smiled. She no longer walked in the gardens or laughed in the library. Her eyes, once filled with fire, now held shadows. The nobles were pleased. The rumors had stopped. The council meetings were quiet again. And the princess had returned to her proper place, silent, polite, alone. But something inside her had changed. Kailara sat in her chamber, holding a small device. It was the one Elias had repaired during his visit, a simple music box from a forgotten alien culture. Before him, it had been silent for years. Now, when she touched it, it played a soft melody. Earthborn hands had brought it back to life, just like he had brought her to life. She missed him, not his words alone, not just his calm smile. She missed the way he made her feel seen. She began to study humans more. She read Earth history, their wars, their mistakes, their love stories. She watched their films and read their poetry, and in all of it, she saw something no other species in the galaxy had: passion, emotion, strength through pain. She thought of Elias's words, "You were just never seen right." Kailara began to see herself in a new light. Far away, Elias was back aboard the human ship Stellar Wind, heading toward Earth. He tried to keep busy. He worked in engineering, helped with navigation, repaired communication systems. But no matter what he did, he couldn't forget her. Kailara, her voice, her eyes, the way she stood tall even when surrounded by judgment. He remembered how she had touched his hand that night under the stars, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. He had left to protect her, but it still hurt. One evening, he sat, alone in the ship's observatory, watching starlight shimmer past. A fellow officer sat beside him. "You left her behind," she said softly. Elias nodded. "I had no choice." "Maybe not," the officer said, "but some choices still leave a scar." Back on Virelon Prime, Kailara received news from her personal informants. Trouble was growing in the Empire. House Darnax, a powerful noble family, was preparing a quiet rebellion. Their leader, Lord Varnex, the same man who had tried to shame her, was building a private army. He believed the Emperor was weak, that Kailara was unfit, and that the time had come for a new ruler. When Kailara confronted her father, Emperor Kazarun, he sighed. "I know, my daughter. I've known for weeks. But I hoped it would pass." "It won't," Kailara said. "They will strike soon." "Then what do you suggest?" the Emperor asked. Kailara looked out the window. She thought of strength, real strength. Not from titles, but from action. "We prepare. We defend. And I lead." The Emperor looked at her, truly. Seeing his daughter for the first time in years, Then lead, he said softly. Kalara took control of the palace defense systems. She trained with elite guards, studied military strategy, and made fast changes to the royal fleet. Her orders were sharp and smart, but many still doubted her. "She's too soft now," one general said. "She let a human break her," another sneered. Kalara ignored them. She had learned something Earth taught best. You don't need to be liked to lead. You only need to be right. Still, she knew the fight ahead would be hard. House Darnax was strong, and the nobles feared them. She needed help, and she knew exactly where to find it. Elias was working in engineering when the alert came through. Incoming transmission, private, Kylara Durellin. He froze. For a moment, his heart stopped. Then he opened it. Her voice came through the screen, tired but clear. "Elias, I wouldn't contact you unless it was serious. My empire is in danger. I need someone I trust. I need you." He stared at the message. Then he stood, turned to his commander, and said, "Requesting emergency leave. I have to go back." The commander raised an eyebrow. "Back to Virelon? That's dangerous. The council might not allow it." "I'm not asking," Elias said. "I'm going." Within hours, Elias took a scout ship and jumped through space, alone. He flew fast, silent, and low. No beacons, no broadcasts. He entered Durellin space through an old trade route and reached Virelon Prime just as chaos began. House Darnax had launched their attack. Warships circled the skies. Explosions lit the palace gates. Soldiers clashed in the streets. Civilians hid in fear. Elias landed near the royal garden and rushed inside. He found Kalara on the front line, wearing armor, giving orders, standing like a true warrior queen. "Wendao." She saw him, her breath caught. "You came," she whispered. He stepped forward. "You asked." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, without thinking, she pulled him into a hug, strong, real, and full of everything they couldn't say before. Together, they fought back. Elias used human tactics, fast moves, misdirection, clever traps. The alien forces weren't used to this kind of thinking. Kalara led from the front, striking down enemy commanders with precision and fire. She wasn't cold now. She was alive. They turned the tide. By the end of the third day, the rebellion had failed. Lord Varnex was captured. His generals surrendered. The palace was safe. Kalara stood beside Elias on the palace steps, looking over the people who had once doubted her. Now, they cheered her name. That night, she and Elias stood alone on the rooftop. The stars above were quiet. "You didn't have to come," she said softly. "I did," Elias replied. "Why?" He looked at her. "Because Earth teaches us something else," he said. "When you find someone worth fighting for, you don't let them stand alone." Kalara stepped closer. "You're not like any male I've ever known." "I know." "Good," she said, and then, without asking, without fear, she kissed him. And for the first time in both their lives, they didn't feel broken. They felt whole. The sky above Virelon Prime had changed. Smoke from the battle still floated over the silver towers. The people were rebuilding. The soldiers were healing. But something stronger than steel or shields now lived in the hearts of the Durellin. People, hope. And that hope had a name. Princess Kalara. But she didn't feel like a princess anymore, not after what she had survived, not after what she had fought for. She had seen death, betrayal, and fear, but she had also seen courage in herself, and in one human who returned when everyone else left, Elias Quinn. He stood beside her as repairs continued in the palace. Though not dressed in armor, he had become a symbol, not just of help, but of something far more powerful. Difference. The Durellan people saw it now. He was not rich. He held no title. He came from a world most nobles once mocked. But he fought like a brother, led like a warrior, and stood beside their princess without trying to control her. This confused many alien leaders. It also scared them. The Galactic Council quickly called an emergency meeting. Leaders from 100 species gathered in a golden chamber floating between stars. They sat in tall chairs dressed in shining robes, their voices full of pride and fear. "We must address the situation on Virelon Prime," spoke a Grellian ambassador. "A human male has influenced a royal bloodline." Another added, "He interfered in a Durellan civil war without permission." One reptilian noble hissed, "This is how humans rise, not by strength of army but by the strength of spirit, and that makes them dangerous." Only one voice remained calm, a quiet scholar from the Virani sector. Or perhaps it means they are exactly what this galaxy needs. Back on Virelon Prime, Kylara stood before her people in the main plaza. Her armor was gone. Instead, she wore a long royal robe, silver and blue, with symbols of peace and fire stitched on the sleeves. The crowd was silent as she spoke. "For years, I was called the unwanted princess," she said, "not because I was weak, but because I was strong in ways the galaxy didn't understand." She paused, and then came Elias. A man not born to royalty, not raised to obey our laws, but one who chose freely to protect us, to protect me. Some nobles in the crowd looked uneasy. Others lowered their eyes in shame. I once believed love had to be earned by fitting in, but I have learned something better. Love is earned by standing firm when all others walk away. She turned to Elias, standing at her side, quiet and steady as always. "I will no longer live by the rules of a galaxy that failed me." And then she said the words that shook the stars. "I choose Elias Quinn, not as a suitor, but as my equal." The reaction was immediate. Some cheered, loud and proud, some gasped in shock, and others, hidden in shadows, began to plot. A few nights later, Kylara and Elias stood on the royal balcony. "I don't understand how you're so calm," Kylara said. Elias leaned on the rail, watching the city lights. "Because panic doesn't fix anything." "You're not afraid of being hated?" she asked. He turned to her, smiling. "Earth is full of people who were hated for being different, but they changed the world anyway." Kylara walked closer. "You've become more than a symbol, Elias. You've become a challenge to everything they believe." Elias nodded. "Good. Maybe it's time their beliefs change." They stood there in silence, two different beings from two different worlds, bound by something more powerful than culture or law, choice. But peace never lasted long. Late that same night, a message arrived, a hidden signal sent through old Durellan networks. It was short and clear. "You were warned. The Empire will not fall to a human's touch." Then a bomb exploded in the Western Palace Tower. Flames rose. Walls cracked. Guards shouted. Kylara and Elias rushed to the scene. No one was killed, but the message was clear. Someone still wanted Elias gone. The Royal Council demanded answers. "This is exactly what we feared," shouted one noble. "The Union is poison!" Kylara stood calm but firm. "Then you fear change more than death." "We fear weakness," Varnex's brother growled. "And this," he pointed to Elias, "is weakness in flesh." Elias stepped forward. "Weakness? I came back to a planet that didn't want me. I fought for a people who didn't know me. I risked everything without a single promise of reward. If that's weakness, I pity your idea of strength." Silence. Then Kylara added, "You rejected me for being too strong. Now you reject him for being too kind. Perhaps the real weakness is in your own eyes." After the meeting, Kylara and Elias walked together in the royal gardens. "They'll keep trying," Elias said. I know. They may never accept us. Kailara looked up at the stars. Let them try. I'm done living by their limits. She took Elias's hand. I don't want to be a legend. I don't need a crown. I just want to be free to choose. And I choose you. Elias looked at her, then smiled. I choose you too. The next morning, across the galaxy, the Durellan Empire sent out a transmission. It played in marketplaces, warships, schools, and council chambers. Kailara's voice echoed. To the people of every world, I declare this truth. No longer will old bloodlines decide worth. No longer will fear of difference shape our future. I stand today not with a prince, but with a man who showed me courage without command and love without chains. This is the new way, our way. The message ended with a single image. Kailara and Elias, side by side, hands joined. And somewhere, on a distant world, a young alien girl watched the message and whispered to herself, maybe I don't need to be like them either. The Galactic Council chamber was silent, filled with tension thicker than the cold vacuum of space. Leaders from hundreds of worlds gathered, all watching the two figures standing before them. Princess Kailara of the Durellan Empire and Elias Quinn, the human who had changed everything. The council elders whispered among themselves. Some looked angry, others confused, few hopeful. Kailara's voice was steady and clear as she began. You have judged me, called me unwanted, said I was broken. But I stand here today stronger than ever because I was never broken. I was simply unseen. She paused, looking at Elias. He saw me, not as a prize, not as a problem, but as a person. The hall was quiet. Today, Kailara continued, I ask you to accept him. Not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as my equal, as my partner, as the future of our empire. A murmur ran through the crowd. Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. I am not a prince. I am not a lord. I am a human, from Earth. But Earth teaches us to stand with those who fight for justice and truth, no matter the cost. He looked around the chamber. I did not come here to conquer. I came here to help, to protect, to love. Some leaders stood, voices rising in protest. This breaks tradition, shouted one. No human should hold power in our galaxy. Kailara raised her hand. Tradition does not equal justice. Change is not weakness. Love is not weakness. Her words echoed. Outside the chamber, thousands watched the live transmission. People of many worlds whispered, cheered, and hoped. On Viewership Prime, the streets were filled with celebrations. Children wore masks of Kailara and Elias's faces. Artists painted murals of their story. Kailara and Elias stood together on the palace balcony, looking out over the crowd. She turned to him, smiling softly. Do you think they will ever fully accept us? Elias shook his head gently. No. But acceptance is not the goal. Understanding is. She squeezed his hand. And we will give them that, one day at a time. Days turned to weeks. Kailara and Elias worked together to rebuild the empire, changing old laws and opening doors to new ideas. They visited distant planets, met new species, and forged alliances once thought impossible. Their love became a symbol, not just of hope, but of what humans are truly capable of: kindness, courage, and change. One evening, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Kailara looked up at the stars. Do you ever wonder what the galaxy will say about us? Elias smiled. They will tell a story of a princess who refused to be unwanted, and a human who refused to be forgotten. She laughed softly. Maybe one day children will learn about us, not as legends, but as proof. Proof that difference is strength, and love is the greatest power of all. As the twin moons of Virelon Prime rose high, Kylara and Elias stood hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy had seen many rulers, but none like these two. Together, they would show the stars what it meant to be truly human.